Hi students, guess where we are today? Yes, we are in our Eden Garden, our own Madras Christian College. Hope you'll all be missing this environment. Why are we here today? Because long ago, so long ago, nobody know how long ago, just like this, all the natural resources, all the animals and plants went inside the earth crust, and underwent a lot of geological changes, and finally it became fuel. So today we'll be discussing on fuel, especially on coal. Okay, so our topic to cherish chemistry is solid fuels. Okay, so we'll be looking into the definition of solid fuel, and then we'll straight away go to the coal aspect. So the ranking of coal, and based on the carbon content, the coal is ranked as peat, bituminous and anthracite coal. And how is this ranking possible? Based on two types of analysis: proximate and ultimate analysis. What is proximate analysis? Based on moisture, ash content, volatile matter and fixed carbon. If you're going to analyze the carbon, you call that as proximate analysis. And based on individual elements, that is sulfur, nitrogen and oxygen, if you're going to analyze coal, that is ultimate analysis. So then we'll be looking into the properties. So we have a lot to study. So shall we go to the slideshow? Yes, with coal. Hi students, to cherish chemistry, today we'll be discussing on the topic solid fuels, and under that particularly we'll be discussing on coal, its classification and the various methods of analysis of coal. So shall we go to the slideshow? Yes. Coal is a highly carbonaceous matter, that is, it contains carbon. Along with that, it has hydrogen, nitrogen and oxygen, and also non-combustible inorganic matter. So we obtain this coal from the earth crust. So it is in the form of organic sedimentary rock, and we know that it has formed because of the deposits of plants and accumulation and preservation under various geological conditions. Okay, so coal is a combustible rock, a rock that can undergo combustion, and it is a very important fossil reserve. Okay, and what is the main application? No, it undergoes combustion, and the heat generated is used in various areas, especially for generation of electricity. Near Chennai, in Manali, we have such a electricity generating place. Okay, so this coal is classified into various types, right? So, and this classification is based on the carbon content. We call that as coalification. Okay, ranking of coal, otherwise known as coalification, based on the carbon content. Here you can see wood is also coming under, peat, lignite, but these two are not proper coal. So we start from lignite, bituminous and anthracite. Here you see the percentage of the carbon that is present in various forms of coal. Here pictorially we can see very much how this peat looks like. So if you see, the peat is having a lot of recently accumulated partially carbonized plant debris, right? You can see a lot of plant materials which is not decomposed. Okay, so and the carbon content present in this peat is also very less, and therefore we cannot consider this as a proper coal. Whereas the second category of coal is lignite. So the lignite is the lowest rank of coal, and if you compress this peat, you will get lignite. If peat is compressed, dewatered, if you remove all the moisture, and if you lithify it into a rock, that is your lignite. And if you see the carbon content, it is starting from 60 to 70%. Again, we have our lignite corporation in our Tamil Nadu and Neyveli, right? We have a mine of lignite. So the third category is bituminous coal. Bituminous coal, the carbon content is even more higher. So you have subclasses for bituminous coal, namely subbituminous, bituminous and semi-bituminous. Okay, the semi-bituminous, they have almost 90% of carbon content, and it is used for that metallurgical coke formation. along with anthracite. The last one is your anthracite. Now, that is almost the purest form of coal, and that you call it as the highest rank of coal. Okay, it has a bright luster. You can see the appearance here. And the carbon content, even the lowest anthracite will be having 87% of carbon content. Okay, so that can also be called as a black gold. Yeah. So yeah, there are different types of coals. Again, here we see the same thing in a different illustration. So here the peat is the lowest carbon content, lignite is the brown variety, subbituminous is the black variety, bituminous is a hard black variety, and anthracite is the highest ranking coal. Okay, here in this illustration we can see the formation of coal. Now I told you, right? So the plants becomes peat, then it becomes lignite, then it becomes coal under heat, pressure and time. Okay, finally what we get is coal. And mining. So since we get the coal from the earth crust, we have to mine it. And there are two different types of mining. One is underground mining and the other one is surface mining. Okay. Yeah. So once we have mined and once we have taken out the coal from our earth crust, we need to analyze the coal. We need to analyze what are the constituents that are present in the coal, because we need to send it to the industry. So based on that only we can use it for various purposes. So there are two different types of analysis. One is proximate and the other one is ultimate analysis. Proximate, as the name suggests, it's a approximate analysis, like you measure it, more of a qualitative analysis. And ultimate, you measure it element by element. You measure the constituents element by element. Okay, so shall we see it in detail? The first one, as I told you, proximate analysis. We will analyze the moisture content, volatile matter, ash content and fixed carbon. I repeat, we analyze the moisture content, volatile matter, ash content and fixed carbon. Okay, how do we analyze the moisture content? So what do? We take a known sample of the powdered air dried coal sample. So this is the condition. We have to take a known amount of the finely powdered air dried coal sample. Then you weigh it. Okay, weigh it in a crucible and then heat it in an electrical hot air oven around the temperature of 105 to 110 degree for an hour, and then take it out, cool it in a desiccator and weigh it again. Okay, it's basically weighing. You weigh the initial weight, you remove the moisture, weigh it again. Okay, that's all. A simple experiment. What you do? How do you find out the moisture? The loss in weight from the beginning to the end, the initial to the end. The change in the weight or the loss in the weight is your moisture content. So all your moisture will be removed while you have kept in the oven. So the percentage of moisture is W1 minus W2 divided by W1 into 100. The next one is volatile matter. Volatile matter is the one which escapes in the form of gases. Okay, it contains combustible gases. Coal contains combustible gases like hydrogen gas, carbon monoxide, methane, carbon dioxide, nitrogen gas. So all this, again, if it is present in the coal, again it will decrease the calorific value. Therefore, we need to know how much of volatile matter is present in the coal. How do you identify it? How do you determine it? For determination of volatile matter, first you need to remove the moisture. So the previous step. So we need to remove the moisture. So we have to have a moisture free coal taken in a silica crucible which is covered with a lid, and then you heat it in a muffle furnace for around a temperature of 950 plus or minus 20 degree for around 10 minutes. Okay, take the moisture free coal, heat it in a muffle furnace for a higher temperature of around 950 degree Celsius for 10 minutes. Again, take out the crucible, keep it inside a desiccator, weigh it again. Same methodology, but the temperature here is little higher. So weigh it again. So what will you get? Now you will get all your volatile matter would have escaped, and therefore you can find out from the initial weight and the final weight, you can find out the difference, again the percentage of volatile matter. Loss in weight due to removal of volatile matter, okay, that is again W2 minus W1 divided by weight of coal taken into 100 will give us the percentage of volatile matter, okay. Ash content. No, again ash will just come out as a residue in the coal. So, there is no point in having ash content. It will increase the weight of the coal. So, again we need to remove the ash content and we should know how much of ash content is present in a coal. And therefore, what are we doing? We are again taking coal, the known weight of coal, and then heating it in a muffled furnace. Here the temperature again is slightly different, 700 to 750, but the time is little higher, half an hour. We are heating it in a muffled furnace for half an hour. What will happen is all your coal or the ash content that is present in the coal will come out as a residue or come out as ash. So, the ash percentage would be weight of the solid residue. The solid residue is your ash. So, weight of the solid residue divided by weight of the coal taken into 100. Got it? Yeah. The last one is your fixed carbon. So, if you know all these constituents, your ash, volatile matter and your moisture content, definitely from that you can find out the carbon content, the fixed carbon that is present, right? Percentage of fixed carbon is equal to 100 minus percentage of moisture minus percentage of volatile content minus percentage of ash content. So, why do we have to find out this proximate analysis? Why do we have to carry out this proximate analysis? Number one, only if we know the amount of carbon content, we know how efficient is the coal, because that is the main thing that is needed for combustion, the presence of carbon. Number two, the heating value or the calorific value of the coal is also dependent upon the carbon content. Why we should know the volatile matter? Because when volatile matter is present, the heating value will decrease, okay. And the flame length, if volatile or smoke will come, and the flame length will be long flame will be obtained if volatile matter is there. And then it increases secondary oil support. Ash content, as I told you, the weight will be more if ash is present, and again there is no point, it does not contribute for combustion, therefore there is no point in the presence of ash. And again it increases weight, the weight of the coal, therefore transportation, handling, everything will be higher. You have to pay a higher amount for all those things if ash is present. So, we need to remove that. And moisture, it increases the transportation, handling, same thing. If moisture is present, weight will be more, therefore the cost of transportation, everything will be higher. Ultimate analysis, okay, the second important analysis for to know the constituents of coal is ultimate analysis. So, what are the elements? I told you we are finding out the individual elements: hydrogen, nitrogen, sulfur, oxygen and ash content. Here I have given you a table to understand how in anthracite we have this much carbon, this much hydrogen, this much oxygen, nitrogen and sulfur. So, this was carried out using ultimate analysis. Okay, so we will learn how are we going to do that. First, to determine carbon and hydrogen. So, here if you see this diagram, you will understand even more better. Okay, so what are we doing is, we are taking a known amount of coal in a combustion tube. We are taking a known amount of coal in a combustion tube. So, this is your combustion tube. Okay, and then you are burning it. Okay, the coal, you are taking coal in that, this is your coal. Okay, this is your sample and you are burning it. Okay, so what will happen? What will happen as you burn coal? What will happen? Your carbon dioxide and water will be liberated. So, once it is liberated, this CO2 and H2O, it will get absorbed in these tubes. One tube will be having calcium chloride and the other tube will be having potassium hydroxide. So, what will happen? This KOH will come and get deposited in CO2, sorry, in your KOH tube, your CO2 will get deposited and your water will get deposited in your calcium chloride tube. So these tubes weights are known initially. So after this deposition of your CO2 and H2O, again you need to weigh your tubes. Now the difference in the weight will tell you how much of CO2 and how much of water is present. By knowing that, finally we can find out the percentage of carbon that is present and percentage of hydrogen that is present in your carbon dioxide and in your water. So this is the formula for that: increase in the weight of KOH tube. Okay, once after it gets deposited, what will happen? Your weight will increase, and therefore that multiplied by 12 divided by weight of coal sample taken into 44. Why 12 and 44? Because 44 gram of carbon dioxide, there is 12 gram of carbon. Okay, and similarly hydrogen, increase in weight of the calcium chloride tube. So your calcium chloride tube's weight will increase after the deposition of water. So what will happen? Again, 18 gram of water is equivalent to 2 gram of hydrogen. So therefore increase in weight of CaCl2 tube into 2 divided by weight of coal sample taken into 18. Hope you got it. Okay, this is how you will analyze carbon and hydrogen, by depositing CO2 and H2O gas. Next, nitrogen. How do you find out nitrogen? To determine nitrogen, we need Geldahl's flask, and the method itself is known as Geldahl's method. So we are taking a known amount of coal and we are heating it with sulfuric acid, okay, and potassium sulfate or copper sulfate is taken as a catalyst, and the speciality is of the Geldahl's, it's a long necked flask because a lot of fumes will be evolving, and that could be done only by this type of a flask. So we heat it and the nitrogen is converted to ammonium sulfate and the solution becomes clear. Okay. Next, what you do is, this ammonium sulfate is treated with sodium hydroxide and you get sodium sulfate. Okay. And the nitrogen will be evolving, or it will be coming out in the form of gas, ammonia gas. Okay. And this ammonia gas, okay, it is liberated and it is distilled over in a known volume of standard sulfuric acid. Hope you got it. The ammonia is liberated and distilled over in known volume of standard sulfuric acid. So what do you get here? See, so see here, first we treated with sulfuric acid and copper sulfate in Geldahl's flask, and you get ammonium sulfate. And that ammonium sulfate, okay, with sodium hydroxide you get ammonium gas, and that using this Geldahl's trap, finally it is absorbed in your sulfuric acid with known volume and known strength. Got it? Okay. So this known volume of known strength of sulfuric acid is then titrated with standard sodium hydroxide solution, okay, an acid base titration, and from which, by means of back titration method, we can find out the percentage of nitrogen. Okay, so the percentage of nitrogen can be obtained by titration method. Okay, got it? Okay, so this is the method by which we can find out the nitrogen content present in the coal. Next, sulfur content. How do you find out sulfur content? Again, you take coal and burn it in a bomb calorimeter. Okay, so what you will get when you burn it, all your sulfur will be oxidized to sulfate. So the residue will be obtained as ash in the bomb calorimeter, and the residue is extracted with dilute HCl. Okay, and that is your barium sulfate. Okay, when you precipitate, you get barium sulfate. Okay, so the precipitated barium sulfate is filtered, washed, dried and heated. Okay, so this is your calculation. 233 gram of barium sulfate will contain 32 gram of sulfur. So how do you find out sulfur? It is converted into sulfate. Then the washings are treated with barium chloride, and barium sulfate will be precipitated, and the precipitate is filtered, washed and heated, and finally you find out percentage of sulfur, that is weight of barium sulfate into 32 into 100. You know how you got that 32, because 233 gram of barium sulfate is equal to only 32 gram of sulfur. So 233 gram of barium sulfate contains 32 gram of sulfur. So with this formula you can find out the percentage of sulfur. Lastly, ash and oxygen. Ash we already studied in proximate analysis. So it is the same method what we did in proximate analysis, just heating, okay, heating. And then oxygen, if you know all these parameters, that is sulfur, carbon, hydrogen, even the ash content, with all this again you can find out the percentage of oxygen alone by subtracting it from 100. 100 minus percentage of all the other things what we have found out just now. So finally we can find out the percentage of oxygen. Okay, so why again this ultimate analysis is important? Because the presence of carbon, the presence of carbon, will only determine how pure or how good is the coal, and the calorific value will also be obtained from. Presence of hydrogen is also very important, okay, but it either goes out as a volatile matter or it could form water along with oxygen. So that is a problem here, but both carbon and hydrogen equally contributes for combustion. Next is nitrogen. Nitrogen has no calorific value, so therefore the presence in coal is undesirable. The good quality coal should have very little nitrogen content. What about sulfur? Sulfur actually it is present in a very little amount, and that too it's because we obtain the your coal from the earth crust. So you have other ores like iron, pyrite, gypsum also along with the coal that we get from the earth crust. Therefore you have the presence of sulfur. So what happens when your sulfur is present? It will get oxidized, and the oxidation product, what is your oxidation product? Sulfur dioxide and sulfur trioxide is very, very harmful to the atmosphere. So therefore the presence of sulfur is undesirable. Okay, the last one is oxygen. So when oxygen is present, what will happen? It will decrease the calorific value. Why? Because high oxygen content will contribute for moisture. Whenever oxygen is present, moisture content is more. Okay, so and again the calorific value will decrease, your coking power will decrease, so everything will become low because of the presence of oxygen. So it is very important to analyze proximate and ultimate analysis. Okay, so with this we'll end up our class here. We'll stop here. So the next class we'll be seeing about carbonization, okay, and pulverization. Again, there are two different types of carbonization. Okay, so we'll have a continuation of the same video. So thank you all. So cherish chemistry with the topics that we have learned. So we have learned the classification of coal and the various methods of analysis of coal. Hope you enjoyed this class. Cherish chemistry. Thank you, class. Thank you so much.